It's time for Ralph and Vicki's Off-Grid Podcast with your host, outdoor writer Pete Rogers. We're coming to you from the Hunter's Blend Coffee Studio. Hunter's Blend Coffee, defending hunting one cup at a time. Now, let's get into this week's show.
All right, welcome back to Ralph and Vicki's Off-Grid Podcast. It's good to be back together where we can talk about different things, and it's good to see you guys. I'm excited about this upcoming season, and I think we'll start this podcast by talking about the upcoming deer season. Here in South Carolina, our season opens in just a couple of weeks, in early August or mid-August. Somewhere around Vicki's birthday is our opening day, and it is so daggum hot down here that time of year, but a lot of people would like to get out there and do it. But right now we hear a lot of people talking about getting the last minute things done for their deer season. So let's kind of throw that on the table and let's talk about some of the things that you would recommend, Ralph, as far as these last minute things. Here, we're just 2 weeks away from the season here. Where up there, you're
not till October
6
1st.
weeks away?
Yeah,
October 1.
8 weeks?
Yeah.
So you're 2 months away. Okay.
Yeah, we're already thinking about antelope, elk, mule deer.
Yeah, I know.
This is kind of different this week too. We have a new setup. We have some new equipment in here, and you're not sitting here with us.
I know. We're doing the first one remotely.
Vicki said she sort of liked that better.
I did not. Don't believe a word he says, Pete.
You know, Vicki, it's because of you that I stay in therapy, and I just appreciate that.
But right now you're like in my head. It's kind of a different feeling. I'm not going to lie.
It is different. It is different. It's the first time we've done it using this remote setup, but we're hoping it's going to be a good experience for the listeners and the viewers. And before that, I forgot. You just got your off-grid on Waypoint TV.
We did. We just started our off-grid television, the digital series, Off-Grid with Ralph and Vicki. We just got it set up onto Waypoint TV, and we've got all kinds of new digital shows out there. So that's kind of cool. It's a new thing for us.
You know, and that show's more almost like the podcast, where we're actually attacking certain topics and, you know, trying to elaborate more than what we normally would do, you know, on Archer's Choice and the Choice. So, we're pretty excited about it because we have 30 plus years of footage, and
we're able to do more tips and techniques and just kind of help them out. And we have video footage behind it to share with everyone to back it up. So it's kind of cool. Yeah,
it is. I actually watched the first 2 episodes yesterday, the introductory one and the moose hunting one.
Did you fall asleep?
And really liked. No, because the way Ralph was demonstrating the moose calling was pretty intense, I might say. Really getting into it.
Oh, buddy,
getting into it, boy. He
likes moose hunting.
Good.
I like all calling where you can. I like all hunting where you could call them and you try to make something happen. It's just
right.
It just adds that other dimension to it.
It does. And what I liked about it, just as a viewer, was that it's not a species you normally see a lot of things about. You don't normally see a lot of details about moose hunting. But yet, for most North American hunters, I would say that the moose is high on their bucket list for an animal to really go after. So, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. So, listeners, if you haven't had a chance to get on Waypoint TV, it's a streaming television service. Most smart TVs have access to it. Go to Waypoint TV, type in Ralph and Vicki, and their new off-grid television series will show up on that. So thought about that. Wanted to give that a quick plug while we're getting started here. So all right. So this past weekend, as an example, I spent 23 hours on a tractor mowing, bush hogging fields that had been fallow for 3 years. That's a different story. But kind of new access to a new property, and I'm thinking, man, this is so late doing this, getting ready for our deer season. I hung some cameras up on the new property. I put together some natural ground blinds like we talked about in one of our other podcasts. And it got me to thinking, I said, guys, we really need to do a podcast on things that people need to do to get ready for their season as it's getting so close for opening day. So what kind of things would just start talking to us with your experience, Ralph, Vicki?
Sure, buddy. I think one of the things is, especially with the power of TV and everything out there, a whole lot of people for their deer season really anticipate that food plot setup. You know what I mean? Food plots are everything today. Whether you're sitting in a pop-up blind, a fixed blind, a hard shell insulated blind, the food plot is really become a big thing. And I'm going to tell you, we've made our mistakes through the years because we're not farmers. You buy all your seed, you do your fertilizer, you do your lime, and you think you got it all done right. You watch all the little how-tos and you read everything you can, and you go out there, you apply all of the strategies, and next thing you know, well, it didn't work. Worst gut-wrenching feeling you can have.
When you think you're getting ready to go out there and go and start hunting on it, and you go out there and it's just dirt.
And you spent $1,500 or $2,000 trying to get it to grow.
And all the time, too. An effort.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I think that we've learned is, a soil sample. Find out, because, heck, we learned on this one little piece, this 20-acre piece that we have, because of the trees, there was so much acidity in the ground, and the root systems reached out so far, literally no matter what I did, I couldn't get anything to grow. I mean, it was nuts, so we're learning as we go too. There's going to be a lot of people that are so-called experts, and it's because they went and put 5 food plots in, you know what I mean? And they worked, and they're insta-famous. But the reality of it is it doesn't work like that. I think if the process that we have learned all these years is pretty simple and cut and dry. One, figure out where. When I say that is the benefits, the true benefits of why you're putting that plot in that certain area. And I think most of all that a lot of people overlook is the entrance and exit of that plot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They look at it and go, I'm going to put a plot here. Well, they didn't realize that they got to come through the bedding area, or they got to come through, a natural corridor that leaves your scent, cuts the movement off, and you sit there for the whole season. You're like, well, what am I doing wrong? Well, so I would tell you one that we've learned is really strategically. And years ago, we didn't have we didn't have satellite photos. Okay, you had to walk the ground. You had to figure everything out.
That's right.
Today, you could Google or go on your maps. There's so many apps now, right, Vicki?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're saying is it's just that, one thing like you said, Pete, you're 2 weeks away from here. So right now, you're hoping your food plots are in and you're trying to do this, but you can still figure out the best entrance and exit into your hunting areas.
Yep.
And things like that. But I think one of the other things, though, that's key is make sure if you're archery hunting, make sure you are set up and ready to go. You've shot your practice broadheads. You have brand new broadheads sharp and ready to go for the season. I mean, you really need to be dialed in at now and get ready to do it. You need to know that from standing to sitting, from a tree stand shot, you need to be able to make that shot when it counts. And that's one of the things, within 2 weeks, you're going to be out there archery hunting, and and where you're at, it's going to be hot in 2 weeks, isn't it?
Hot.
Yeah, I don't know if I can handle
degrees,
that. Hoppy's goes, come on, you guys. Hoppy keeps telling us, come deer hunt, come bow hunt Florida early season. We're like, no. It's 95 degrees. Humidity's 100%. Yes.
We'll be out in Colorado where it's cooler.
I'd have 20
That's how it is here.
It's just. But I guess
that's how it is here. And
yeah,
it does give you a chance for a velvet buck.
It does. You're right. That is pretty cool.
Where you do have a chance for a velvet buck for about 2.5 weeks. Usually by Labor Day, they've all rubbed off. So we get about 2 weeks where we have a chance to hunt for a velvet buck, and that's exciting. I've killed one buck in velvet simply because it's so hot. I don't like to go out there, but I know a lot of people do. Do. To your point about the food plots, though, Ralph, what about? So I'm going to come back to that in more detail, but it got me to thinking about the people who don't have the opportunity to plant food plots.
Sure.
What if you don't have a food plot? What if you're hunting public ground?
Good point, Pete. I'm sorry, and like what you're saying is, one, scouting. if there's a way, a lot of the state areas, allow you to go in there, take a couple days, sit down, try to get to a high vantage point and glass a much larger area and try to see the movement, try to see the patterns because a lot of these deer are what we call a summer pattern early in the year. They're still feeding it.
Right.
They have had no pressure.
Right, and their testosterone hasn't come to the point where they're scraping all the velvet off, so they're still all together.
Yep. So you have your bachelor groups just like you would be out west in Colorado,
Right,
Montana, and everything. So you have a summer pattern that you can pattern because of the food source. Number one. Number two, never shortcut water. Water is a mandatory thing. Now, don't kid yourself. A lot of your deer and a lot of your antelope, a lot of the other animals can get enough moisture off the plants if there's heavy dew in the mornings. They really can.
Right.
But they sure do like to gulp. And when they can gulp, they'll take advantage of that. So scouting out that water source for that early opening, few weeks. Remember in this too that there's no pressure. So if you see them and you do not contaminate that area, if you move in there on that opening day, your chance of success is really high on a particular animal that you're setting for because the pressure hasn't hit. Once that pressure hits, whether it's state or public or private ground, you're going to start seeing a lot of those more mature animals start to gravitate towards that nocturnal period again because they're starting to understand, and I don't even think they understand it, but they realize, something's going on, boom, they go to their safe zone. Their safe zone on a mature animal is to be more nocturnal.
Well, let me ask a question about that because I've often wondered, and I keep meaning to ask some of the guys at QDMA or some biologists, is that here in the South where it's so hot, they'll start to put on their winter coat around middle September, and it's still 90 degrees. So do you think some of the going nocturnal is simply for comfort because it's so hot during the day and they're starting to put on their winter coat? Or is it pressure, or is it a combination? Is there any way to even know that?
You know what? Honestly, I think a good way to look at it is when, like, moose hunting, when we go up moose hunting. The moose, they are just such big animals and they have such heavy hides. And a big part is when it's hot out and we're hunting up there. They can't move. No. They know that they can't lose that much weight. So they're going to be nocturnal up there. So maybe you're right. Maybe that does have something to do with the different hide as it's going on. But then again, yesterday, 2 days ago, Ralph and I, we were driving back from the airport actually. And we saw a bunch of deer and it was 86 degrees and it was middle of the day. It was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they were all out eating. Yeah, which was kind of odd, but crazy. They still have their summer hides on too.
But the other thing too, we didn't look at the barometer. We didn't see if anything, if there was a high pressure
moon
or low pressure moving in. We didn't, we really didn't pay much attention to that. But the other, and Vicki nailed it. The other thing though that I think, a lot of these animals, they don't sweat, they pant.
That's right.
So a lot of times I'm no biologist, but after 50 plus years in the woods, I think you learn a little bit, and I really believe, and the cameras are telling us way more than just assuming something, and that is you get a lot of game movement on the coldest, whatever it may be, periods of that 24-hour period.
We'll be right back with more Ralph and Vicki's Off-Grid Podcast with your host, Pete Rogers. Welcome back to Ralph and Vicki's Off-Grid Podcast with your host, Pete Rogers. We're coming to you from the Hunter's Blend Coffee Studio. Now, let's get back into this week's show.
Now, like Vicki said, middle of the day, hot. Maybe, here's the other thing. If you don't know your area, predation could be pretty heavy.
Right, because like I said, we were driving back from Chicago, from the airport, from O'Hare. So
you might
obviously
have
we don't know. There could have been coyotes or even just people, because it was a nice, pretty sunny day. It was pretty windy out, but maybe that's why they were out there in the middle of the field.
And you know, as you know, Pete, they've got to eat about every 6-8 hours. So especially if that doe's got those fawns, she's got to eat. She does. She's really taking care of those babies. So I think that's what also allows has us seeing more game movement. In that summer period of time as the does, and then as you start getting ready, like Vicki was saying, shooting. Here's the other thing, and I used to get this a lot when we had the shop. Guys would go up on a hunt. And, they never shot with a face mask, or they never shot with gloves. They never did this or never did that.
They never sat down and tried to shoot out of a blind.
Yes. Please get out there now before you're getting out there and start practicing with anything that you are going to be wearing, using, whatever, before season. Because all these little things, and it may not affect you physically, but mentally, if you come to full draw and you're like, oh, am I in the same anchor with that net or with the glove on or this or that? This is a mental game. And boy, if you start putting those little mental blocks up, you're going to be amazed at how come you missed that deer at 15 yards.
Well, Ralph, and another great, like you were saying, like with gloves, and you laugh at me all the time because we get people that, you'll go hunting and it will be freezing cold outside and they won't have gloves on. And they say, well, I can't because I can't shoot with gloves on. I shoot with gloves on all year long. And anytime I'm shooting, even if it's 90-something degrees outside, I have my gloves on because that's how I want to always know that that's how I'm going to shoot.
You know what else, though, Vic, too, is I think years ago, there were no such thing as these tight-fitting,
yeah, they were all big, bulky,
cotton. They were big, bulky gloves.
Yeah.
So I can understand years ago, Pete, you know what I mean, where they didn't like shooting. But today, there's no reason. And the two biggest things that constantly move, ground blind, tree stand, spotting and stalking, your head and your hands.
Your face and your hands is great.
That's right.
That's what they're going to see, and that's what's going to spook a deer.
Yeah, I know. It's really amazing when you walk up on somebody who's in a pop-up blind and they don't know you're coming, and you see their face just glowing from a distance because they're sitting so close to the front edge so they can see. Man, that's like a spotlight right there. You got to cover that up, and you mentioned that, Ralph. I know for years I've written about doing that same thing, but a part of me thought, that's just BS. That's just people trying to sell a story or trying to sell gloves and a head net. Until, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, I went to shoot at a deer and my face mask got hung up in my release because I was wearing a different mask, and from then on, I'm like, okay, all right. You have to have a really bad experience before you believe some of the expert advice
you're right.
for some reason. And my comment to the listeners would be, don't wait till you blow it on a really nice buck before you actually go ahead and do that. Shoot, even if you're going to wear the camouflage face makeup, even to an extent, at least on the side that you're going to be aiming through. Because I know the first times I was wearing it, besides all the mosquitoes getting stuck to my face, was just a little bit of an adjustment. It was just an adjustment. So that's a very good tip. Is put on the same clothes you're going to be hunting with, especially those accessories, so that when you're practicing, when you speak of practice, I was reading on a social media page this weekend, the South Carolina Deer Hunters on Facebook, about the people who were just now breaking their bows out, just now getting ready to start shooting, and we're 2 weeks away from season. I'm like, God, really? That's just, I don't know. I don't understand it.
But buddy, listen, when we had the shop, we saw it. Here's the thing. I am not going to beat them down. I'm not. And I'll tell you why. There's so much going on in today's world. If you're a parent, you got traveling teams, you're taking your kids here and there, you're trying to get on a vacation and everything. If they start 2 weeks before season, I'm okay with that. I am. Because, again, it's muscle memory. But the thing we don't want them to do, and that is not shoot with the broadheads, If they're struggling with their poundage, decrease the poundage. You know what I mean? We could pound, and we've done it forever. We have, you pound people saying you got to shoot 6 arrows a day, all year long. I'm going to tell you something. We don't. It's just because you start getting busy, you start doing this, you start doing that. I think what we want to do is we want to embrace them, say, listen, hey, if you're going hunting in 2 weeks, start even.
And it's not just your first season archery hunting. I mean, we're talking about people that have hunted years, a few years in a row with your bows and stuff like that. If you just go like you said, like at the archery shop, we would have guys come in the day before Wisconsin open season, and they'd buy a bow and they thought they were going to hunt the next day.
And we'd sit them down.
And they'd never shot before, and you're like, no.
We're like, guys, it ain't like that.
It's not like that.
So I guess, just putting it out there that, listen, and we just, like Ron, we had Ron, and we got Ron set up with his new Hoyt, and we said, he goes, man, I got to shoot it, I got to probably, what do you think, Ralph, 50 arrows a day? I said, Ron, no. I said, take, he had one of the wedgie targets, remember? And he ends up, I said, keep it at 10 feet, 5 feet. I said, draw back your bow. Close your eyes, anchor, find everything in your mind. Open your eyes, look, hold that pin, and pull through that release. I said, if you could do that, just put it in the basement. And, every so often, walk down there or just even in your office. I said, shoot a couple arrows. I said, you'll be amazed at how it will help you when season comes around.
Right.
I mean, it just...
It does. It really does.
It's all, everybody's trying to push this. You got to do that. You got to do this. You got to do that. You know what? I want to see them enjoy it. I want to see them get excited about it. I want to see them as accurate as they can be. That's what we're saying here. And if you don't have the time, don't beat yourself up. But do make the time to just draw back, anchor, draw, anchor, aim, release. If you practice that at even 5 feet, 1 arrow a day, in your living room, in your wherever it is.
Did you almost say closet?
Closet, yeah. but what I mean, wherever it may be, I truly
make sure you have a good target if you're shooting in your living room, though.
Oh yeah, buddy, we do.
Yeah,
our bag,
absolutely. Yeah,
our wedge just sits there and it's perfect.
But and then you guys also, I had mentioned, and both you guys had mentioned also, was just the broadheads. We've been on trips, and one of the things is, you need to make sure that your broadheads are sharp, sharp, sharp. Do not hunt with your practice heads.
Do not trust the marketing ploys of saying, oh, this shoots like your field point.
No.
Take one out and shoot it. Do not play that game. Period.
And then don't shoot that one while hunting.
That's your practice one.
We take a Sharpie marker, we just mark them, or nail polish or something. You mark that one blade, so you
That's
always
Vicky's
have.
nail polish. I don't have any. I want to be clear.
It's Ralph's nail polish.
I want to make that statement.
Come on now.
Now, Pete, I know you got yours, but I don't have mine. I'm just.
You can confess now. It's all right. It's all right.
But the biggest thing is that we all want to be out there and as ethical as we can be.
Yep.
And that sharpness of that broadhead is a huge part of being ethical.
And do not shoot a broadhead into a bag target.
No.
That's why they make the 3Ds and the foam. That's what those are designed for.
That's right.
And we see a whole lot of people, they struggle, because they're like, well, what target should I buy? Should I buy a bag target? Should I buy a foam target? Or should I buy a 3D target? Here's what I tell anybody. If all you have, is able to get one target.
Right.
I'd buy a foam because you could shoot your field points with it, and then you can shoot your broadhead. Now the bag makes it so easy to pull the arrow out. It's crazy.
Right, without your broadhead.
Yes.
But with that broadhead, you're just going to have foam and pieces of string and everything everywhere.
You won't get it
it's
out.
never going to come out.
No,
you're not going to get it out.
No.
And then it's not safe because you're going to shoot an arrow into it with just a field point, and all of a sudden you're going to be breaking arrows because you're hitting the ferrule of the broadhead. It's just a mess. Don't do it.
And then when you go to your 3D target, to me, that's the ultimate. Because, again, I go muscle memory and your mind. You can take that 3D, you can position it. Like we'll have our Mackenzie's deers and we'll start switching them and we'll slowly change the angle, or we'll walk
away or
walk
broadside.
around.
Yep.
the target.
Right.
And just, you know what I mean? You take an arrow and you throw it somewhere. You walk up to that arrow, you look, and you judge distance. You don't have time to say, with your rangefinder, you go, okay, he's 22, boom, and you take your shot, because that's real hunting. That's what real hunting's all about.
That's funny you say that, because I've been doing that for decades, where I pull my arrows and I just start throwing them in different distances and different directions, and I walk to them and shoot them. Just got to make sure you're not shooting across your other arrows.
Yeah, you don't want to bust your arrows.
Break an arrow. But yeah, I've been doing that for years, where I just throw them out there, and then I just kind of walk to them and pick them up. And
you did it like on the carriage, horse and carriage, didn't you? When you first started?
No, it was it was a chariot.
Oh, chariot. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, remember, he's more of a gladiator.
So you were on Gladiator. I saw you.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
But that's a great tip. I don't want to forget about the gun hunters either, though.
Absolutely.
Same thing.
Same thing. They do the same thing, and
practice.
They just go out there, and the day before they'll bring their rifle out, and they'll go to target, and they'll boom. Oh, I hit the paper. I guess I'm okay, and they'll go out and start hunting with it, or they say, well, it was zeroed in last year. There's no reason for me to even check it. And I think all of us have horror stories of something like that we've done, or somebody we know, where you miss the same deer 4 times, or you make a really poor shot and wound them and can't find them because you didn't check your scope. You didn't make sure that it was shooting well. You didn't clean it very well at the end of last season, or whatever it is. But the rifle hunters are the same way. Here in the South, like I said, our deer season opens in a couple weeks, and in certain parts of the state, gun season opens in. And we don't have a weapons restriction in South Carolina when it comes to guns. So you can use any centerfire rifle for whitetail, any centerfire caliber rifle. So again, we want to say to the gun hunters out there, go to the range. We have a lot of public ranges around this country that you can go to. Go to the range, and don't just shoot one time. Shoot it several times so you're comfortable with that gun. You're comfortable that when those crosshairs hit the target, you know where it's going to hit.
I was going to say, and the same thing too is like if you're traveling, if you're not just hunting from your house and you're going somewhere, if you actually have to put that gun in a case and you throw it in a truck or on a trailer or in an airplane, when you get to that place, whether it's a bow or a gun, shoot it again and make sure nothing happened to that scope or those sights, because a lot of times, airplanes, airline employees, sometimes they're not so easy on our equipment, and, you need to double check and make sure everything is still on.
I think, too, that right. what you touched on is, and again, people are starting to think about, or they're already starting to travel to start doing some of the hunts, don't cheapen on the case. That case, you spent as much money as you did on your bow or your gun, and a lot of people, well, I'm just going to run to the hardware store and pick up 1995 gun case and throw my gun in it because I'm getting on the plane. That, just remember something. $20 case is probably not going to protect that $1,000 setup or $2,000 or $3,000 setup.
That's right.
If you can't afford one this year, use a buddy's. But then start saving some money and put the money into a good solid case. We've some of those military spec Plano cases. We've had them. We tied them on a plane, on a bush plane, and one fell, and nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Wow.
So there are take advantage of some of the better quality stuff, because it's
to me that's just cheap insurance. That's cheap insurance because that one case can handle. Say if you're a gun hunter, it'll fit most of your rifles. So you're buying one case for multiple, basically one insurance policy to cover all of them. And the same thing with your bow if you have more than one bow. I did notice recently because I bought a new case. 2 years ago, and now that the bows have gone to more parallel limbs, you got to make sure that case is made for a bow with the more parallel limbs as opposed to the older style,
the old long ones. Yeah,
I got home and my bow didn't fit. But I went back and exchanged it. It wasn't that big of an issue, but that's when it dawned on me, okay, make sure that it's going to fit your style of bow, and also with that, if you're buying one for guns, get one that'll hold a shotgun, because then it'll hold your rifle too. Shotguns typically are longer than rifles. If you buy one just for your rifle and then you're going to go to South Dakota to hunt pheasants and you can't put your shotgun in it because it won't fit without breaking it apart. And some people just don't like to tear their guns apart, into pieces to fly with it. So try to think ahead when you're getting those cases, and make sure they're TSA approved as well. Forgot about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll be right back with more Ralph and Vicki's Off-Grid Podcast with your host, Pete Rogers. Welcome back to Ralph and Vicki's Off-Grid Podcast with your host, Pete Rogers. We're coming to you from the Hunter's Blend Coffee Studio. Now, let's get back into this week's show.
Yeah, the TSA is pretty particular on their weapon cases, whether it's a bow. The last time I flew with my bow, I had one padlock on it, and the TSA agent made me go buy 2 more. And when you had to buy a padlock in the airport, you were going to pay a premium price for it.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
Oh, yeah. No, everything,
like
you gotta make sure everything, you got your locks before you get to that airport, for sure.
Yes. So, but those are some good tips. But back to getting ready for the deer season. We kind of got off track a little bit. You were talking about food plots, and I mentioned things about people on public land and or people who don't have plots. And a point of that is when I was doing all that mowing the other day, I noticed persimmon trees everywhere. And in the South, that's a really good
great
September, great natural attractant. So how would you, that's a very short window though.
Yeah, it's just like our acorns, Pete. Just like acorns, you know what I mean? And a lot of people, how do I know? If you live in an area, you could walk into that timber and just quietly listen, you'll hear the acorns dropping. Boy, the first thing you want to do is go locate those trees and see if there's access for you. First, you're going to see all the scratching from the turkeys, the squirrels, but then the deer, you know what I mean? And don't kid the hogs and every other animal, because acorns is a major, it's a tremendous attractant, great in protein and everything else for our game. But
and we don't have persimmon trees up here in Illinois, so we don't know. Do they make noise when they fall?
Is it a nut? Sure it is. Yep. But they're quiet. Most of your soil's sand.
A persimmon is more like a plum.
A plum?
Yeah,
really?
It kind of looks like a plum. It's about the size of a plum.
Okay.
Maybe I'm trying to think ping pong ball size.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're they you make jellies and jams and things like that out of them. Some people do.
Gotcha.
But it's a fruit, not a nut. And they'll start dropping right around Labor Day, about the same time the wild grapes down here get ripe, and they are a magnet for all animals. I've seen coyotes under the persimmon trees eating the persimmons. Every animal loves them. So if you have persimmon trees, that's a great early season attractant. But what I found is it's such a small window. You have a week to 10 days to hunt it before all the fruit's gone.
Well, just like locating, like you said, early season, if you're not putting in a plot, you know what I mean? Understand the other things. And again, it goes back to food and water, at any given time of the year, because, there's going to be certain things that attract animals, at early season. And then, there's going to be another thing that attracts them in the late season. And I think that's a big plus with the food plots is, a lot of people that are putting in food plots, a fair amount of them live in and around ag areas. So don't put that food plot in that you think it's going to,
right.
It's going to do just as good as that 1,000-acre bean field or cornfield. I mean, you've got to remember that your success will increase if you build this stuff, if you plant this stuff in for the times that stuff is gone.
Like late season.
Oh, or before it, before they start feeding on it. So I mean, there's so many, everything's timing. And I guess what where we were going to, we'll get back to is just saying that what we've learned to work the best is, one, doing your soil test. 2, I like to go in and design, figure out first off, figure out the best place,
Yes.
entrance and exit, and what time of year you're going to anticipate hunting this area. Going in and mowing, clearing it out and mowing it. Then I like spraying it, because I like to, instead of having that tall grass that gets stuck in our tillers and everything, I'd rather it be short, hit the root system earlier, or quicker. Then turn around, because we got our soil test, we throw our lime, we throw our fertilizer, whatever it may be, and then we till that in the ground. But the other thing, too, that I learned, and I made this mistake of a fair amount of times, was when I till, you'll always leave those side hills from the side of your tillers. You'll always leave those little mounds as you go down. Turn around and harrow it, or turn around and rake it, or do something to break those mounds up. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're going to hurt your seed bed. Try to make that soil as level as possible across the whole plot. Now we got the fertilizer in, we got all this in,
Right.
And then normally what we'll do is we'll either till that in, or we'll harrow. We'll just run it over with the harrow. Boom, we got that. We broadcast, or we use our wood seeder.
Yeah.
And then we lightly, depending on the seed, depending on what we're doing, trying to keep that depth pretty accurate for that particular seed. And then we're always trying to put that stuff in, watching the weather. We want moisture. So, once you do all that.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, if you're going to plant, then to your point is that watch the weather forecast before you plant, and make sure that you're going to have rain within 2 to 3 days, and run out there if you can, and get the seed in the ground, get it packed in, and then let the rain hit it. Because if that seed sits there for a week to 2 weeks with no rain, and it's just sun just beating on it, then the birds are going to eat it, 1, and 2, you're really going to limit your ability for it to actually.
And one other thing I think that we actually didn't even touch on about, like you're saying, you're just getting ready, you're 2 weeks away from hunting season there in South Carolina, is actually just making sure all your gear is ready to go, all your hunting clothes. Have you washed it, with Sunaway soap? Do you have everything ready to go? Do you have a thermocell with all the butane you're going to need there in South Carolina for those mosquitoes come sundown? There's a lot of other things that you don't want to wait till the last day and all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, I didn't wash my clothes. I need to go and wash it up, and make sure I have my sprays. And honestly, Pete, I don't even know, does like a Sunaway spray when it's that hot down there help any?
Yeah, it's been highly debated. I've actually written several stories on it. I think I did one interviewing Ralph on last year about trying to control your scent when it's super hot. Yeah. And, there reaches a point where you're just pouring sweat sitting still.
Except for play the wind.
And there's very little you can do, in my opinion, after hunting down here for the last 30 years, is that very point, Vicki, is no matter how well you've patterned your bucks, no matter how well you have your entry and access to your stand.
Yep.
You're ruining the area.
You're educating.
You're just wasting time.
And once you get them educated,
they are,
and then you wonder where all your game went.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep, you are, and I don't care if you're 30 feet high in the tree. When it's that hot and you're sweating, you're dripping onto the ground. You're going to be educating your deer, so you have to make sure that everything that you do all comes together hunt the wind first.
Yep, I agree with you. And we could do everything we possibly can. Nothing will eliminate human odor completely. Period. Nothing. Have we tried ozonics? Yes, we tried that. And do I think it helped? I think it helped. We've been messing with no trace.
Zero trace
here for a while. And I think we're seeing that. I think the big thing is like Vicki cannot be in a blind with ozone. She
with
was
one
gagging.
of those units, I can't. I start gagging because
and so are some of our camera guys. I think even me, I start.
Now, I do want to say back to Vicki's point is that the Sunaway stuff does. I use it.
Yep.
I use it religiously. I wash my clothes in it. I take the little wipes with me into the stand, and I'm wiping my sweat off with them. And I put them in a Ziploc bag after I've contaminated them. I think all those things help.
Nope. And And that's the thing, at the end, just like Pete, you said something that I think, on closing we should really touch on. And that is, at the end of the day, here's the bottom line. If you have more opportunity to get out there and hunt, I would tell you, then step back. If the wind's not right, don't hunt it. But if you only have 2 weekends out of the year,
right,
I don't want that person to stop hunting. And I know someone's listening and to go, "Are you nuts?" I want them to still go out and hunt. Maybe change your strategies up a little bit. If the wind's not right, maybe just go hunker down in some brush. If you only had one tree stand set up.
Instead of blowing the whole area out.
But if that's all you have, if you only have a couple weekends, man, get out there. Get out there.
That's a valid point. A lot of people think that if I can't hunt elevated, then there's no reason to go. But that is so far from the truth. Or if I don't have a pop-up ground blind, then I can't hunt from the ground. Oh no, I can tell you, yes, go sit down just like you do when you turkey hunt. You just sit at the base of a tree, be very still, make sure the wind's in your face, and it's amazing.
Yep.
Amazing how
and again, here's something, and we've proved it to our guys, and I mean, time and time out. If you're sitting on the ground, and if you're not hunting, here you go. I'm going to get myself in trouble.
Uh-oh.
But fanning for turkeys, like you know what I'm talking about. I carry a fan when I'm hunting on the ground with no blind or anything. I have a fan in my backpack for deer, and I'll tell you why. When all of a sudden I got some deer coming down the trail and they see that blob and they all of a sudden, you could tell by the body posture, they're starting to get they get tense. I just pick up the fan. I slowly open it up. Again, I'm hunting private land.
Yeah.
All right. I'm emphasizing this, but I put that fan up.
Sure.
Absolutely, 100% change of body posture. They relax and they keep doing what they're doing just by using something that they're so used to seeing a blob.
That's a great idea.
But then that fan signifies to them it's okay.
Wow, that's a great tip, Ralph. I mean, I've tried doing a cluck to them or a yelp with my throat whenever I've seen that, but I've never thought
Pete,
about
it's amazing. They'll just relax.
Never thought about taking a fan. That is such a great tip. Man, that is such a great tip. Wow, I'm impressed that you came up with that. It works. I am really impressed you came up with that.
We should.
Hey, if you're going to just sit on the ground, you'll be amazed at what it does. All the game, it's just a natural movement. It solidifies to them, that blob, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Pete's going to write an article about it now.
Oh, yeah. Pete will write how.
Great idea. You can bet on that. You can bet on that. The other writer out there listening to this, I'm calling dibs on it right now, okay? All right, so season's coming around for a lot of people, and we got a lot of things to do to get ready. So, and kind of drawing all this together is make sure that you practice with your weapon of choice, and practice so that you feel proficient. Don't just make sure it's all on. Practice so that you feel proficient enough.
Pete, can I just throw in something? If you buy a 5-pin hunting sight or arch or bow sight or a movable bow sight, don't think that you're doing something wrong that you can't shoot 80 or 90 or 100 yards. You know what I mean? Or 50 yards. Stay to what you are confident in. So if it's a 5-pin sight and really your accuracy is 20, 30, and 40, take the other ones off. Don't worry about it. But stay in your own personal zone. Same with your rifle. You know what I mean? If you're going to shoot, if you can shoot accurately up to 300 yards, and you know your ballistics, you know the quality of the bullet, the whole 9 yards. Don't try to push it to 500 or 700 or 800 or so on. Stick to what you know, and I'm going to tell you, the season is going to go that much better for you.
It really will. It really will. Because it's amazing how people misjudge long distance too. You know, when they see something, I shot that deer at 300 yards, and you go back to the rangefinder and it's 175, because across a big open field, they look a lot further away than they are.
That's ego. You know what I mean?
they just really, it is.
Yeah, oh, buddy.
It's always 300.
It was 310 yards. Did you have a rangefinder?
They
No.
always say 300
but
yards.
how did you know it was
Yeah.
310
It's
yards?
Always 300. Yeah, exactly. But it really will fool you. But practice with your equipment so you're proficient. Shoot with your face mask and gloves on, even if you're doing with your rifle, with your scope. One thing that we didn't cover was make sure that your lifelines are attached to your tree stands.
Yep. Make sure everything's
and all
safe.
that's in good shape. Which means, one thing that I do with my lock-ons, and this is just me, is every year I check the straps, and every other year I replace them. For the stands that stay up all year, I don't care if it's in great shape. Every other year,
and like
I
you
put
said, your lifeline. They now, like hunter safety systems, and they have the lifelines. They're ones that came out with it first, and it's stay connected from the ground up. Because they say, I believe it's like, isn't it 85% of the tree stand accidents
is getting in and out of your stand?
in and out of your tree stand. It's not sitting in your tree stand and having that tree stand fall down or something like that. It's actually in and out of your stand. So always stay connected. And if you don't think that you need a vest, you're wrong. And if you think it doesn't matter because it's just for you, it's not. It's your family and your friends that's going to have to suffer from it also. Just don't be... Yeah, don't act like your ego is too big to wear a vest, because nowadays you can get them.
Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna save your life or a lot of injury.
And the other thing too is just like if you leave a rope outside and you leave it out there all year, you know that it's become weaker, whether it's the sun or whatever.
Exactly.
Why take a chance after season? Take that lifeline down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Put it away.
Store it away.
And then, start putting them out now. Be prepared. Be safe. The most important thing is enjoying it.
For you people who are out there getting ready for this season, I hope some of these tips and tactics that we talked about will help you get ready for the upcoming season that in many places is just a couple weeks away. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed to Ralph and Vicki's Off Grid podcast, please do. We're available on all the podcast stations.
Awesome.
All right.
So
take care,
next
people.
time,
We'll
talk to you soon.
Come back and join us again.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. We hope you come back again for more Ralph and Vicki's Off Grid podcast with your host, Pete Rogers.